Few game series brighten up my mood like Ys. There's something effortlessly addictive about its fast, energetic action RPG design. Simple on the surface but endlessly engaging in practice. The series has been around for nearly as long as Final Fantasy, yet for much of its history, it remained just outside the mainstream. For many Western players, Ys only truly gained mass popularity with the 7th entry, Lacrimosa of Dana. Earlier entries often flew under the radar, not because they lacked quality, but because they came from a series that spent years in a quieter, more modest space in the action RPG landscape. Titles like Ys 7 reflect that clearly. Built for the PSP, it doesn't aim for spectacle or scale in the way modern entries do. Instead, it focuses on tight, fast-paced combat and efficient storytelling, with a presentation that prioritizes clarity and performance over cinematic ambition. Yet, there's something magical about this game. At the time, I couldn't fully explain why it clicked with me. So now in 2026, I've gone back to revisit it and to understand what made it so special, and why it still holds up today. So without any further delay, let's dive into the world of Ys. The series started in the late 1980s as one of Nihon's Falcom early flagship action RPG titles. Most Ys games follow Adol, a red-haired adventurer who travels the world documenting his journeys. In the series' lore, you're essentially playing through stories taken from Adol's travel journals. Adol is often compared to Indiana Jones in spirit. He is not a chosen hero trying to save the world. He's an explorer who has an uncanny habit of stumbling into ancient civilization, mysterious artifacts, and world-ending crises. During development, Falcom prioritized three pillars: fast combat, simple controls, and a strong emphasis on momentum over complexity. The series brought a more immediate, almost arcade-like approach to action RPG design. Over the years, the series evolved through multiple eras and platforms, but it never really followed the same mainstream approach like its counterparts. It remained consistent in tone and design philosophy, but remained relatively niche in the West, where many entries were either hard to access or arrived years later with limited exposure. By the time the series reached the late 2000s, Falcom was in a position where Ys needed to evolve again. But not by changing its identity, but by modernizing how that identity was expressed. This is where Ys 7 comes in. 7 marks a clear turning point for the franchise. It's the first mainline entry to fully commit to a party-based combat system, moving away from the constraints of a single character that's limited to a single set of skills. Ys 7 sits in a transition period between the older, more traditional Ys games and the modern era. It's not trying to reinvent the formula from the ground up, but rather experimenting with systems that would eventually become core to its identity. Because of that, Ys 7 feels less like a standalone experiment and more like a bridge connecting what Ys was and what it will become. By design, Ys 7 is an isometric action RPG built around fast, frenetic combat. Unlike the previous entries, you can control a party of up to 3 characters, each with their own set of skills and weapons. These characters address various aspects of the gameplay. Case in point, enemies are tied to specific weapon weaknesses. Some are vulnerable to blunt damage, others to piercing or slashing. Because of that, you can't rely on a single character. You need to switch on the fly and use the right tool for the right job. It's a bit like Fire Emblem, but in real time. The game clearly telegraphs what works and what doesn't, so you're constantly adapting mid-fight. Even when you're using the wrong attack type against an enemy, you're still building towards something. You see, every enemy has a stun meter, and once it fills up, they're left wide open, and that's where the combat really opens up. When an enemy is in a stunned state, you deal more damage, build skill energy faster, and can chain into stronger abilities. You can also charge your attacks to boost damage and energy gain, which adds another layer to the flow. The more pressure you keep on, the more your damage ramps up. It's not just about reacting, but about maintaining momentum. Character progression is well thought out too. In addition to the usual RPG stuff, such as equipping new weapons and armor, you can learn new attack skills. Each attack skill has its own level, and you upgrade it by using it. Skill leveling isn't just number go up either. Using a skill repeatedly allows you to master it, so you can use it even when you switch weapons. As you level up these skills, they deal more damage and most notably, visually and mechanically evolve to cover more area and hit more targets. What started as a single slash now evolved into a slash that's followed by additional waves. In other words, the range is improved and the damage output is higher, letting you build that stun gauge faster. This kind of progression is very addictive and makes the grinding incredibly rewarding. It also makes those tough encounters that much more manageable, so you never feel really stuck. In terms of exploration and mobility, VIII moves at a very fast pace. Encounters are quick, often ending in just a few seconds, which fits a long-running series tradition. VIII rarely wants you stuck in one place for too long. Instead, it keeps things moving fast, pushing you from one location to the next at a steady and satisfying rhythm. But that doesn't mean the game is a straight line, far from it. VIII introduces a light layer of gated exploration through ability-based power-ups. These function almost like Metroid-style progression tools, gradually unlocking new paths and letting you revisit earlier areas with new options available. The game also has a bit of backtracking, but that doesn't mean you'll be visiting the same sites again to find or activate something. No, in fact most dungeons are layered and have sub-dungeons of their own that are accessible only if you have the right ability or item at hand. They're all brand new environments with new monsters and bosses. Generally, the game isn't an open world, and it's not trying to be. Instead, it strikes a balance, fast-forward momentum through the main route, with just enough backtracking and ability gating to make the world feel connected rather than purely segmented. Exploration is balanced and never a waste of time. In fact, you never feel lost, but always encouraged to explore just a bit more. One of the main evolutions of VII is it's the first mainline game to be in full 3D. Previous games relied on sprite-based characters in 3D environments, which to be fair isn't bad looking but hardly impressive even at the time of release. As a result, VIII feels like a noticeable step forward. Its environments are more detailed, more varied and grander in scale than many of its predecessors. The art direction also embraces a much brighter palette, filling the world with bold colors that give each area a distinct identity and an inviting sense of adventure. Whether you're traversing the lava-filled flame shrine or the lush forest surrounding the ancient tree, the game rarely feels repetitive. Many locations also feature sweeping vistas that initially seem like little more than scenic backdrops, only to reveal themselves as fully explorable areas hiding optional treasures, equipment and secrets. It's the kind of environmental design that rewards curiosity and makes the world feel larger than it first appears. Of course, VIII is still a PSP game, and its visuals reflect the limitations of the hardware. By modern standards, the polygon counts are modest and the environments are relatively simple, but this is also the game's strength, in that the simplicity has aged surprisingly well. The clean art style makes combat easy to read, keeps visual clutter to a minimum, and gives the game a timeless charm that many more technically ambitious titles from the era have struggled to retain. Blown up on a 4K screen, it actually holds up better than you might expect. Just turn off the bilinear filtering, set everything else to max, and it becomes a surprisingly solid experience. And if you feel like the game is too blurry, consider using the environmental textures from the Chinese Joyland version. It includes noticeably higher resolution assets compared to the Western release. You see, VIII, the publisher in the West, was unable to secure the rights to use higher resolution textures, so the Steam version still relies on the original PSP assets. But other than that, it's a handsome looking game considering its vintage. Then there's the music. It's so good that whenever one of these tracks comes up in my playlist, my first instinct is to turn the volume up. Falcom sound team JDK absolutely nails it. They deliver energetic, rock-infused tracks that perfectly complement the game's fast combat and sense of adventure. Honestly, it's kinda amazing how well the OST fits the game. I mean, have a listen. So what do you think? Pretty good stuff, huh? The soundtrack has this infectious energy that makes every battle feel more exciting and every dungeon feel more epic. It's the kind of music that sticks with you long after you put the controller down. And perhaps the most impressive part is that this level of quality wasn't a one-off. Later Ys games somehow managed to build on it even further. It's one of the series' defining strengths. And in many ways, that sums up Ys VII as a whole. It's not a game that relies on a massive budget or cutting-edge visuals. Instead, it succeeds by excelling at the fundamentals. Responsive combat, brisk pacing, memorable environments, and a soundtrack that keeps your adrenaline pumping from beginning to end. When I first played Ys VII, I couldn't explain why it resonated with me. Revisiting it years later, I think the answer is surprisingly simple. It never wastes your time. Every dungeon, every boss, and every new ability pushes the adventure forward. There's very little padding, and that sense of constant momentum is what makes the game so easy to come back to. If this retrospective has convinced you to give the series a try, then my first recommendation is simple: play Ys VII. It's an excellent introduction to the franchise, and even today remains one of the most approachable and rewarding entries. And if you finish it wanting more, which is exactly what happened to me, my advice might seem a little unconventional: go backwards. Check out Ys the Oath in Felghana or Ys Origin, and after that maybe the Ark of Nepishtim. They all may look dated, but they're tightly designed adventures with no filler. They deliver the same fast-paced action and sense of momentum that makes Ys VII so special. They also embody the same design philosophy that made me fall in love with the series in the first place. That is to say, they're compact adventures that respect your time and keep the excitement high. Before I wrap this video, I want to give a special shoutouts to Digital MLS. If you're interested in diving deeper into the world of Ys, figuring out the best play order, or learning more about the series' history and lore, this is the site to visit. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope this retrospective gave you a new appreciation for Ys VII, or maybe even convinced you to finally give it a try. It's the game that introduced me to one of my favorite series of all time, and revisiting all these years later only reinforced why it left such a lasting impression. It's truly an excellent game that deserves your attention. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives in the future. And to get in touch, you know where to find me. That's all for me for now. Thanks for watching.